There's just not a lot to talk about right now. Let's hit it at 12 or something. I know.
Not to talk about.
Well, there's just...
I got 2 hours of material.
Yeah.
Locked in.
Well, I want to...
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Mike says his alarm didn't go off. My question for the audience is, does this ever actually happen?
Well, here's what happened. I can show you. This will be the filter in.
Okay. Yep.
Now? Do it?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we've been live for 30 seconds.
All right. So I set the alarm last night right before I went to bed, and I have a regular alarm for a trash day alarm. And so it's that sets at it's supposed to set 5:30 p.m. usually, and I accidentally adjusted that. So it's the 6:38 alarm that says every Monday. And so I just clicked on the wrong one.
Oh, so this alarm would go off on Monday.
Yeah. I made an error clicking the wrong one. I did set it, and it didn't go off.
Okay, all right.
You don't, Spike, do you use the sleep schedule? I noticed, Mike, the top one you don't have set up.
Dude, it's wild. I get a reminder at 10:05. My Apple Watch just goes it's time to go to bed or whatever. But yes, I do.
Yeah, I've been using that. It's nice.
What does it do?
It tells you, you set your wake up time, you set how many hours you want to sleep, and then the night before it'll be hey, it's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
if you're staying up too late. But you can set it to schedule. So Monday through Friday, if you're waking up at a time different than the weekends, you could set that. So you just set you set it once, and then you don't have to worry about it again, unless you want to manually adjust it.
I don't like bedtime.
Sleep really is the health secret weapon, the code that I have yet to crack. The 8 hours of sleep. It would change my life in such a positive way, and I'm just so bad at it. And I've been bad at it for 20 years, and I look worse because I'm bad at it.
I've always been bad at it.
Yeah.
But maybe the health secret weapon is not being healthy.
Oh, wow.
You think
That's
about that?
Interesting.
Something to think about.
Maybe after I move, I could get 8 hours of sleep because I don't need to get up as early. Let's figure it out. Maybe. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the Ricky, BriggsAuction.com. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at BigBarker.com/Ricky. That slash is now back. Now you can go there. You used to have to use the promo code. You don't have to do that anymore. So just go to BigBarker.com/Ricky. And Kinetic Skateboarding, get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, Sixers lose again, this time to the Spurs. Mike cannot pick college basketball for the life of him. And perhaps an age restriction on Daryl. Also, I have a couple of interesting lottery-related questions for Mike. I did mention Kinetic Skateboarding. I was on Kinetic Social today, and the New Balance numeric 430s have come out, which are actually really sweet. It says in the tweet that they're lightweight. I can't vouch for that because I've never held them. But it does highlight one thing about Kinetic is that I would not have seen these sneakers anywhere else. And their site and their store is full of New Balance and Nike and Vans and Converse that you're not going to see anywhere else, along with great gear, hoodies, T-shirts, everything you want for spring, summer. You go shopping there. You go to kineticskateboarding.com and you use code Dave Silver, and you get 9.1% off your first order. And a happy 30th birthday to Tim from his girlfriend Tiffany, who started emailing me about this about 2 months ago, and to her credit has sent me 5 different reminders to make sure that I did it, which I enjoy because I am that kind of person. I will remind you if you don't tell me that you're going to do it. If you're ever working with me, remind me that you're going to do what you're supposed to do, or I'm going to remind you. So Tiffany says, to give you a little bit of background on why this would be so incredibly meaningful, the guy is a Doylestown native, so his life is pretty much all Philly sports, to a point where anytime a Philly team lost in recent years, I would without fail get a text from other people asking, is Tim doing okay? Before we dated, I barely watched any sports, and now I own sweatshirts for all the Philly sports teams, including a sick Sixers vintage sweater I live in, and find myself not only watching but shouting at the TV consistently. If we're ever in the car driving, I expect that your podcast is going to be on. We joke our engagement ring will probably be purchased at LL Pavorsky. Don't joke about that.
Not a joke.
Yeah, just fucking do it. So, happy birthday to Tim from Tiffany, who's not only thoughtful enough to reach out to a stranger to mention your birthday on their podcast, but I will remind you, has reminded me, as I asked her to remind me, but gave me like a 3-week warning, a 2-week warning, a 1-week warning, and a yesterday warning. So happy birthday, Tim. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
Larry, sweetie, the man is here.
Say the name, I say the name, I say the name.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Gaskin, along with a guy who loves college basketball but doesn't know anything about it. That is one Mike Levin.
It is very funny. As those teams were losing, I was like, oh my God, all the teams that I had mentioned. And I'm doing well aside from the teams that I mentioned on the podcast, which is good.
Sam wrote into rightsricky@gmail.com.
Very correct.
Spike and CJ, I need to write into Roast Mike. I listened to the latest pod this morning about 30 minutes before the round of 64 game started. Mike mentioned 4 teams he liked: Texas Tech, Louisville, Clemson, and VCU. Only 8 hours later, 3 of those teams have already been eliminated.
Louisville died. Clemson had one of the worst games in tournament history, and VCU just couldn't stop BYU's offense. Run by former Sixers assistant coach Kevin Young.
Oh, really?
Former Brett Brown assistant, yeah.
Oh, there you go. So I am in Atlanta for Fly the Process. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Sixers lost to the Spurs last night.
Close one.
Yeah, it was a close one. Sixers made a nice little run there in the third quarter, and I think it was 100-100 right at the beginning of the fourth, which shows a lot about what these last night's game sort of encapsulated why I'm having so much trouble with the Grimes thing. Is that like so much trouble figuring out what I actually believe about the Grimes thing, in that these games that the Sixers are playing seem to be one of 2 situations. One situation is they're playing another team that is not very serious about winning games, or the other situation is they're playing a good team who's not taking the Sixers very seriously. Yeah. So it seems like so many of the games, there is actually very little resistance to anything anybody does, which you don't quite notice as much with Grimes because he's actually good. But then you start noticing players like Ricky Council having like really good offensive games and shooting like turnaround jumpers like from 10 feet away. And so it is like, it's very hard for me to figure. I know that Grimes is skilled. I'm not questioning that he's good, but it's hard for me to really put my finger on what's actually going on because it doesn't seem like the Sixers are in any actual real basketball games at this point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the idea that it's hard to trust any production in this environment. But I think while it's a drawback, while it's something you have to factor in, absolutely, I do think like you can watch it and go, the shot looks really real. The defensive effort looks really real. Like you can look at, he had 10 assists last night, career high.
Yep, he had 25, 10, and 2.
But he also turned the ball over 5 times.
Yes.
And made some bad passes and made some, lacking in vision turnovers where he didn't see a defender was right there. And so I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to have the ball in my hands enough where I can have 10 assists and 5 turnovers when like the games matter again. But I do think you can look at that and go and watch the games and go, that indicates some improvement from over the course of his career.
Yep.
And he is leveraging his shot and the threat of his shot and how much the defenses take the shot seriously for a while it was leveraging them into a lot of drives and taking it to the rim. I have a real thing, like aesthetically, I love a drive middle and little finger roll right over the front rim. And Quentin Grimes does that. I love that, and I think it's a beautiful looking shot. And so he leverages that, and then they're like, okay, well, so we have to account for that too. And now he's using it as not just that, but to get passes to his teammates open. And so I think you can go like, okay, that's another step forward. He's not going to ever have the ball in his hands enough for him to be that kind of player in a environment that matters. But I do think his game is improving as he gets like he's hitting so much off the shot off the catch. They're top blocking him a lot, which I think is a good indicator of how seriously the defenses treat him. He's the game plan right now, which is, not saying too much, but he's the game plan. They try to top block him to prevent like pin down screen so he can pop up and catch it for a three. And he's gotten good backdoor cuts out of it. Like Yabusele hit him with a sweet bounce pass when Sohan overplayed it last night, ended in a Grimes dunk. And they've had a nice little two-man game going. So I just see enough indicators that go, it's not going to be this when it matters, but I do think
it'll be something good.
It'll be something good. I can see, like, look, there's a chance for sure that, like, sort of similar to I had an example last night and I lost it. We'll find it later. But the idea that he could sort of amp his usage down and just fit into a role-playery role in a successful way, that there's a possibility that he's not as good at that. His numbers go down. There's a possibility that his shooting percentages, his defensive engagement, whatever, sort of starts to dissipate when you're not counting on him as much, when he doesn't touch the ball enough. That's possible. I just think he's been consistently good, hitting shots, being useful, showing motor on the defensive end, and I'm just really excited about what it could be.
I actually think the trouble I had was with the Derek White comp, because he doesn't feel like Derek White at all to me, that he is so Grimes. You mentioned the turnovers. He does seem to. Derek White is, I think, a more thoughtful passer than Grimes is. Now, Derek White's on an awesome team with a bunch of thoughtful passers, so that part is hard. And then defensively, it seems like he's getting a lot of like pick six type steals that Derek White just seems like a more disciplined, thoughtful defender than Grimes is. Now, Grimes is playing with a bunch of two ways and guys playing for contracts and who knows. But it was the comp, I think, that made it harder for me to see the ceiling, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I see that. It's not necessarily that they look exactly the same on the court, but that I think the role could be very similar. I do think they both play very fast. The ability to play fast while on balance, I think, is relatively rare, and I've enjoyed that since Quentin Grimes has been here. And yeah, he just gets the ball out of his hands fast. Derek White has become a little more like, oh, if I have a big on me, it used to be just like he's doing Josh Hart stuff with a better jumper. Yep. And I do think that he has taken on a bigger role in Boston and can kind of just go isolation against somebody. And there's stuff that Grimes' first step is really good. Derek White's first step is really good. I see I just sort of see like the vision for what Quentin Grimes' perfect scenario of his career is he ends up on a really good team and can do those same roles that Derek White can do, and I think he could fulfill them. The basketball IQ is probably a little lower, to your point, but I see it getting better, and I see it being I see him just being a really, really useful player. I want to keep him. I'd be so annoyed if we went through all this. I would be AU level annoyed if we went through all this and then he just signs like a, I don't know, 4-year, $90 million offer sheet in Brooklyn, and they just go like, okay, bye. We'll get somebody else that can do this stuff because we haven't.
The Rice and Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the Process. Now, I don't know if I wanted this. I don't know if this person wanted his name read, so I'm just going to read the email. We got an email about Kornblau. Sometimes I think rather than saying the stuff that I say about the business, it's great to hear from somebody who actually dealt with them. So we got this email to write, rickysanchez@gmail.com. What's up, fellas? This Kornblau story happened to me a few years ago, but my daughter just brought it up to me, and I want to share it because Kornblau is a genuinely solid dude. We had recently just moved back to Philly from Virginia Beach, and I immediately got T-boned as my reintroduction back to the city. My daughter, who was in the car in 10 at the time, was super familiar with Kornblau due to my extensive Ricky listenage. Me, not knowing any lawyers, contacted Kornblau, obviously, and met at his office. When I told my daughter where we were going that day, her eyes got really wide, and she was like, "That Kornblau?" pointing to the radio. When we walked into the office, it was the first time that my 10-year-old was ever starstruck, and Adam initially seemed taken aback at the small black girl who looked like she just met Beyonce. But the dude was awesome, and he was great with my accident case, and fast forward a couple years later, I moved to Arizona, and crazy enough, another T-bone. Might be you, buddy. My first instinct was to call Kornblau, and that's what I did, and this psycho really tried to help me again. He was offering advice and seeing how he could be of assistance. I quickly realized this would be a massive undertaking for him and didn't want to burden him, so I sought local help from someone who's in Arizona, but I had no point of reference to find somebody better. Anyway, I said I would always write in, and I never did, but Kornblau really is that dude from the ads. He's the shit. So there you go.
That dude from the ads.
That dude from the ads. So if something happens to you, you've been hurt in any way, been injured somehow, you want to reach out to Kornblau because he is that dude. If you think you have a case, give him a call or shoot him an email. It doesn't cost you anything until he gets something for you. 215-576-7200 and ask for Adam. Or email Kornblau, Kornblau, at kornblauandkornblau.com. Fair to mention, Kornblau was misspelled in that entire email. So you really need to pay attention on how to spell it. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. It was a good Yabu game as well, which was sort of nice to see because he has been so run down.
Yeah.
But it did look nice to see. I love when he bullies people, like offensively. He is such a really smart offensive player and understands his size very well and understands like positioning and space very well. And he's a really good player. I cannot figure out what his role is on a really good team. I suppose he is a 20-minute-a-game guy that plays some backup five and can play four next to a center, who can shoot. But he is really he will really stick in the league for several years now. I can't figure out what his actual value is. But
I think
it was nice to see him happy.
I think that's it. What you just said. I think it's 20 minutes a game. Some 4, some 5, depending on the matchup. Like you play Minnesota and you go like, okay, that guy can cover Nas Reed. But if you're playing like Boston, you don't want him on Tatum and Brown. So
Right.
I think it's just, or he would be like, oh, on Boston, he'd be like, okay, if it's Horford, I can do Horford. But it's just, he's a really nice rotation player, and I think that I would like to sign him.
Yes.
Obviously I've made it a priority for Quentin Grimes to stay here. So Yabusele has taken a little bit of a backseat to that, but it'd be nice to have him. It's such a bummer that Joel's first bad season, obviously for a number of reasons, is when they like find all these guys that we've been asking for other seasons for his whole career. We've been begging for a guy like Yabusele for his whole career. Too late. I've been begging for a guy like Grimes. Somebody in the chat mentioned that that's what we wanted from Buddy Hield, and it's like, yeah, Grimes stuff from Buddy Hield of like, can you just compete? I think Grimes is a much more complete player, but he's probably still a better like nuclear shooter.
Well, Buddy Hield's unwillingness to shoot after his first week here and that
crazy.
one moment against the Knicks was honestly outrageous.
Well, specifically unwilling to shoot like more than a Tobias level
Threes.
1 inch behind a 3-point
Yes.
line.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what are you doing?
Just outrageous.
Yeah, it seemed like Buddy was like, oh, when you play pickup, sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to work on this part of my game, which means I'm not going to do this other stuff. And Buddy was like, I'm just going to work on my lefty layups. I'm going to get to the rim and go to my left. And that was his whole intent with the Sixers, was like, I'm working on my lefty layups now.
Didn't we find out he had a clause in his contract that gave him a bonus if he shot 40% from three, which probably led to...
Probably an insane thing to put in the contract.
Yes. By the way, an interesting just note from last night. So Chuma Okeke started. He was the 21st different starter for the Sixers this year. Mike, I want you to put your brain in it's September 12th, and we're doing the pod. And I'm like, Mike, I saw the future. And on March 22nd in San Antonio, the Sixers starters will be Quentin Grimes, Justin Edwards, Gershon Yabusele, Chuma Okeke, and Jared Butler. What would you have thought happened for that starting lineup?
I would have been really excited, probably.
Yeah.
My first reaction would have been really excited.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, oh man, they're winning so much that they got to rest everybody for a game.
By the way, and play a bunch of guys that aren't even on the Sixers at the time.
Yeah, many of whom. Yeah. Yeah, that's look, it got rough. It got rough for the season. Chuma, I've liked Chuma for so long. He had a really sick block of Sohan at the rim.
Yeah.
Stoned him with his left hand. It's been fun. This team is like, I don't know, they're moving
fun time.
They're moving the ball better.
Yeah.
It's just more fun to watch. Like there's so much of, like I'm spending the last 12 to 14 hours each day the last 2 days watching college basketball, and we'll be doing so today as well and tomorrow. It's not a better. Obviously, the game is not better. The players are not better, of course. But like, there's just more movement in the average college basketball game than there is in currently the average NBA game, and it's a fun detour to watch. I like them both, but like so much of NBA is guys just like pick and roll at the top of the key, three guys spreading the floor, and there's a lot more movement. And the Sixers are kind of running that sort of much more movement style offense right now, where it's more democratic and you can move the ball and somebody cuts middle and you swing it, and it's just more fun to see. They have 30 assists this last night. When they were playing earlier in the season, they were like last in the league in assists.
Yeah,
because it was just a lot of 2-man game or Maxey taking it himself or whatever, Joel, when he was there. So I don't know. I am still enjoying the little break that we have because of the torture that we went through. Yep. Now we're on a break. I'm glad Ricky Council had a nice game. It was his best game in a while. He had 20 points on 9 shots, hit some makes off the catch, 3 or 5 from deep, got to the line 6 times like only he can. Big fat dunks. It was nice to see. He was having fun. That was cool.
Nice little Justin Edwards game again too. He was
great.
I've really enjoyed Justin Edwards too.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy to say this every podcast, where every single year of Joel's career, pretty much until you could say until the losing to being up 3-2 on Boston and then losing on Mother's Day in Game 7 in one of the most embarrassing performances in Philadelphia sports history. You could say that up until then, every single year of Joel's career, his team has let him down. His team, the players he was counting on, or the players that were assembled to be there, were really just not good enough, or the front office fucked him over some way, and there was just like not quite there to. He did what he had to do, but nobody else really performed at that level. And then this year, they found so many guys that would have done that would have been so helpful at those times. And Joel was a shell of himself, beyond less than that. And it's so unfortunate. The timing of that is, there's irony in really bad irony in what we've gone through because of this. I would have loved to have just sort of plucked some of these guys away and thrown them to some Sixers failures of yore.
Yeah.
But no, we don't get that. And Justin Edwards is an example of that. I mean, and obviously he probably wouldn't play the playoffs, but if they had gotten him as an undrafted free agent in 2018, then he would have been a rotation player for 5 years. He's really good. He's confident as a shooter. He can get to the rim a little bit. He moves the ball, makes a decision, works on the glass. He's been great. He's been unbelievable for what they got him for, and obviously Grimes and Yabusele and all those other guys. But yeah, I'm excited for. I would be so excited. I think you've been hearing me over the last couple of podcasts. Be excited about the possibility of the future when Maxey's healthy and McCain's healthy and maybe Paul George is back and then Joel. But if those two guys, if Embiid and PG are not ever playing at a high level here again, then it is a little fruitless. But they've sort of established a nice foundation of young players that can play. And it would just be nice if the other two guys were there, the ones that they're being paid all that money.
The update on the tanking standings and the lottery odds. The Sixers remain tied with Brooklyn for that fifth spot.
Brooklyn again.
Yep, almost.
Again.
The Raptors have now lost 3 in a row, and the Sixers and the Nets are 1 game ahead of the Raptors.
Yeah.
Now, we can finally say that we are not close to the play-in, in that we are 7 games out of the play-in at this point, I believe. So finally it happened. It took until late March of the Sixers not winning games for that danger to be gone. But
Well, did you notice? Have you been noticing what's happening in Miami?
well, they've lost 10 in a row.
They've lost 10 in a row, and they are the 10 seed right now. So
Yeah, unreal.
they're 29 and 41, and
And they're the 10 seed.
they're the 10 seed. They will have a chance to make the playoffs.
So I am at Fly the Process in Atlanta, Georgia. If you're not part of Fly the Process and you're down here in Atlanta, Joe and I are going to go to Stats Sports Bar, which is sort of close to the the hotel or whatever, to watch the tournament stuff later on today. I got here later yesterday and then came up to my room immediately and watched the stupid game. But I saw a family from Portland here for Fly the Process.
What a year to pick. I'm sorry that
I
they're
know.
bad. I'm so sorry.
God bless everybody who is here. It's certainly not our biggest Fly the Process. It's a significant number of people. It's certainly not our biggest. And we're certainly not going to be dunking away any fucking demons.
The demons are going to be dunking away us.
Yeah, the demons have dunked on us pretty good. But but anyone who is out here, and I've seen I think I've seen 3 or 4 groups of people already. Thank you for coming. We did get this very interesting voicemail about how we should handle ourselves at Fly the Process. Let's see.
Hey, this is Jake. I am just calling because I feel like a potential theme, Dunk Away the Demons is great for Fly the Process, but just really looking for that kind of cohesive, why are we here in this season of just utter misery? And it is just every single pod this year has been a little bit of an ode to Kelly Oubre and Yabusele, and I feel like maybe we just dump all of our energy at Fly the Process into a celebration of those two who are being forced to play even at this late stage in the season and have been the only two to consistently show up. So just could be a nice, send-off or rallying point for the Fly the Process crowd in Atlanta, and give us something to celebrate. Okay, thanks. Bye.
So the issue is Kelly Oubre doesn't seem like he plays anymore, and Yabusele played against San Antonio. Oh no, it's not back-to-back. Yabu could be playing. I think going all in on Yabu would be fun. Cheering for. I think over cheering for everybody, I think is probably the only way to go at this point. We appreciate these guys. It's probably better if they don't win. But, I like Oubre's not going to play, I don't think. So Yabusele misses a game here and there.
Yeah.
I don't know what we do. Why don't we just all just fucking behave ourselves and have some what's it called? Have some self-awareness for the first time in our lives.
Yeah, the self-aware Fly the Process.
Yeah.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm sorry I'm not there. I leave for a wedding in Mexico in a couple days, and I just couldn't make it work. But I think it'll be fun. I think this is still the group of people that always go is always very kind and nice. You always have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's good that it's good that there's still people there. It would have been funny if it was just you by yourself.
Yeah.
Having the demons dunk on you. But I'm glad it's gonna be a good time.
Briggs Auction. Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by Briggs Auction. It is so Briggs Auction. I'm just going to tell you what to do. Download the app in Google Play or the App Store, the Briggs Auction app, or just go to briggsauction.com. Check in once a week. Their auctions are awesome. Tons of different stuff every single week. I say stuff because it isn't just one thing. It is collectibles and art and furniture and jewelry and vehicles sometimes, and between 500 and 1,000 lots almost every auction, a lot of them starting at $1 with a bunch of stuff you never knew you needed. Now this one, and I see in the preview what CJ has for the CJ item of the week, and I was going to mention this, and not this particular item, but a lot of these in this auction. So go ahead,
What a
CJ.
tee-up.
CJ's Briggs Auction item of the week.
Yeah,
Bang.
so mine's a little similar. I picked a few of them because there are a lot of them. If you go on this lot, you will see a lot of watches.
Yeah, a lot of watches, man. And I've always wanted to be a watch guy, and I'm not, but I've wanted to be a watch guy.
Yeah, so I like this one. It's simple, it's classy, it's not like screaming at you or anything, and it's a Tiffany & Co. watch. Very, very subtle, very nice, classy. And then we got some other ones that I thought were a little cool. This one has like a spiral face on it, which is interesting to look at. It is much more expensive than the other one. I don't know how these get the pricing that they do, but
Did you
they
see the
are
one
what
with
they
like
are.
the TV face or something? It said you should look up that one. That one's pretty cool too. There's
And
a-
then
go ahead.
I had this one as well, which I thought was
Woo!
a pretty quirky one. But
Yeah.
it's Elgin. I don't know how to pronounce it, but most of the face is covered. You only see the time at the bottom. Very unique. And there's
Wait, so go back.
yeah,
So the time on that picture is 11:45.
11:46.
Wait,
11:46. It's going that way.
I
So
think
you
so. 'cause
only
you
see
see the
what
little
time
red
it
Yeah.
red
What
tab
an
on it.
interesting- What an interesting thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of
It's cool and also a little dumb.
Yes. Oh, it's a horrible idea.
It doesn't, but they were doing that stuff whenever
Well,
this was made.
It's
I
like
it.
previous to digital watches, which only tell you the time that it is. This is like the digital version of an analog watch that it only tells you the time that it is and
That's wild.
not the time that's coming up.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of watches in this week's Briggs auction, as
dig
CJ
it.
points out. A ton of other stuff, too. There's a bunch of Hermes scarves. You see those, CJ? Hermes. Go to briggsauction.com. If you win a lot, there's open pickup on Saturdays. Make an appointment during the week. They can work with you on a shipper if that's it. If you have a bunch of stuff to sell, maybe a giant watch collection, who knows? Send an email to info@briggsauction.com. Briggs Auction is the official auction of the Ricky, briggsauction.com. Got this email from AJ, writes rickysanchez@gmail.com. Hey guys, I'd like to propose that we restrict Daryl from acquiring any player over 28. Other than Danny Green, everyone he's acquired over 28 has been a disaster. Everyone under 28 has been a home run. This should solve everything moving forward. It really is pretty interesting, as Daryl has always been a vets guy,
Yeah.
right? And he has acquired a lot of vets for us, yet their drafting has been actually really good.
Yeah.
And it seems like the guys that take flyers on, not all of them work out, but it seems like even Melton was a good trade for at the time. You
100%.
know, maybe Daryl thinks he's a vet guy, but he's actually like a Mike guy.
Thank you.
Right? And maybe he just needs to be a young guy. Like maybe he needs to just redo the way he looks at basketball, because maybe his skill isn't what he thinks it is.
I like that.
Yeah.
I would like to hear Daryl, like, when he finally
Stop running. from
comes
us.
on the podcast,
Stop hiding.
stops running from us.
Stop hiding, Daryl.
It does feel like I'm cutting a wrestling promo talking
Yeah.
about it like this. But actually, like, admit or reflect on changing some of his opinions about how to the things he's learned about this year. Like, this is the worst year of Daryl's career by a lot.
Yes.
And I would like to hear him reflect on that. I think that would be interesting, and things he's changed his mind about, maybe. But I think absolutely, like, they've drafted really well. They usually draft really well by not getting too cute and going, who's the high level prospect that has fallen maybe a little further than you'd expect because of 1 year in a different college environment. And that's Maxey, that's McCain. And just going like, either McCain, I guess they're a little bit different. McCain produced at a college level, and then they were like, oh, I don't think he's physically big enough to play NBA basketball, and that's why he fell. And Maxey never got a March because of COVID, and basically had to share a lot of. He was mostly just combo guard. The guy he was at UK kind of indicated, oh, maybe this guy is just like a sixth man type. And Daryl, they sort of consistently goes back to like, well, who were they in high school? Maybe that's who they are. I think Justin Edwards is another example of that, just as an undrafted player, like didn't succeed in college really, and is kind of back to the guy he was in high school. Yeah, I mean, young guys are usually more athletic, and they need that. You need that at a basketball court. Like the amount of like imposing your will that other teams have done on the Sixers because of like physicality or speed or like quick decision making along with speed. That's what the Celtics have done to us over and over again. You need all of it. You need guys that know what they're doing, but you also really need like fresh legs. And the Knicks, obviously, like Josh Hart over and over again, punishing us with rebounds. And I like athletic young men, Spike. Get them out here. We needed them here. Finally.
The thing about having Daryl on, and we talk about it a lot to stop running from us, but it's not like I want to set the expectations for everyone who listens, because he will come back on at some point. And it's not this time. It's not like you did all this bad stuff, we told you so, or whatever. There has been a line of we told you so through the Daryl things, but it's been mostly smaller stuff or whatever.
Backup center.
Yeah, I'm not at this point. I would really like to see him honestly reflect on this season and honestly reflect on the decisions that were made.
Yeah.
But the expectation I want to set is that there were some people that didn't want to sign Paul George, and there are some people that said Embiid wasn't going to be healthy, and blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
But largely, everybody agreed with almost everything that happened. And you can just go back and read the national press from after the offseason. Everyone thought signing Paul George was a win. Signing Caleb Martin was a win. Mm-hmm. Like, everything seemed like you could pick apart one move here or there. But this is not going to be a thing where he comes on and I think we're going, well, you did everything wrong. It's more like you planned for this and it went really, really poorly.
Yeah.
Like, what went wrong? Or like it can't just be well, everybody got hurt. I mean, that's part of it. But I think an honest look at what the fuck happened here and what is recoverable would be interesting. I just don't want to set everybody's expectation that we're going to be like, boy, you really made all the wrong moves here, because everybody was pretty much in favor of most of these moves, including us, I think.
I mean, definitely, yeah. It's like looking at a very busted bracket and being like, but this made sense at the time when I filled it out.
Right.
And that game was like that. We lost that game in overtime. And now that team that I had going to the Elite Eight lost in the first round. I did pick New Mexico, so I'm happy about that. But no, Daryl, like, that's why this season has been so tough. Or one of the reasons is because like it really just came down to Joel was very unhealthy, and when he was playing, he did not look close to like the guy he always has.
Or even was against the Knicks.
Or even went against the Knicks.
Yeah.
And Paul George was like, I'm defending his defense for a while and saying like the shots will fall eventually, but you get really frustrated with his like how many contested 19-foot jumpers he's taking and how sort of just like a little lackadaisical he is all the time, which is obviously the book on him. And it really just boils down to like, who do you build a team around? What kind of a player, what kind of an ecosystem do you build a team around? And everything went right for the Sixers this offseason, and everything went wrong for the Sixers during the season. So what does that say? Like, it's weird to be like, if you're friggin' Nico Harrison in Dallas, you can go, all right, yeah, I was right. He's not, but he could say, I was right, just like we got unlucky because AD and Kyrie got hurt.
Yep.
And also our centers in like Dan Gafford and Derek Lively. Like it was just a hurt thing, and like, oh, you'll never get to see my vision for what the Luka trade was going to be because everybody got hurt, and that's not my fault. But you kind of can't, and he's wrong, obviously. But with Daryl, it did go right. Like it did. Everything that happened this offseason went exactly as he intended it, basically. And I'm sure there were a couple guys here and there that he wanted that didn't come. But like Caleb Martin signing for under market value, Paul George walking into cap space when nobody else ever has, then Embiid re-signing without any drama whatsoever after Maxey had re-signed without any drama whatsoever. Like everybody just sort of was doing their thing. Nick Nurse year 2. It was, the vibes were like incredibly high on every like winners and losers offseason thing. The Sixers were like pretty clearly like the winner of the offseason, and it just didn't happen that way. And maybe Marcus Morris knew that it was going to be bad, but like everybody else was pretty much going, yeah, they should be a top 2 team, and we'll see. It's on Joel now. Like we'll see how he performs in the playoffs.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it is the weird kind of thing that they didn't. It's just like it fucking sucked, and so now we kind of all got to go like, oh shit, what now?
So Marcus Morris is on some sort of media tour, and he was on with my good old friends Maggie Gray and Andrew Perloff, and he was talking about Embiid when he was here, and he was saying how Embiid like barely warmed up, didn't have good practice habits, blah blah blah, and that's why you need veterans in there to show them like what's what.
That's it. We need minimum contract veterans to tell the superstar what to do.
Well, here's my thing. Like, and first of all, everyone we heard these things about Joel for years, and I denied them, and they're obviously true.
Yeah.
Right? Like enough people have said them now, they're obviously true, and he will have to reckon with that. He his career may have ended up in the exact same place, even if he had the good habits, but he didn't give himself the best chance for this to happen, I think is the fair way to look at it.
For sure.
But the funny thing about Marcus Morris's tirade about Morey is 2 things, and Embiid. First of all, you're saying that when you, the veteran who has good practice habits, was here, Joel had bad practice habits, so they need a veteran with good practice habits to tell him, but you were here.
Yeah, he was here.
So that's the first thing. And the other thing is, we played that clip, and he's like, I don't like how Daryl picks players and blah, blah, blah. Daryl drafted Marcus Morris and acquired him twice.
That's funny.
So I don't know. It's just like, Marcus Morris's Philly tirade is just, this isn't the way that you're going to get signed this offseason, by the way.
Who knows? Maybe he's starting a podcast. Maybe he's taking up the mantle that Paul George left behind.
Yeah, you never know. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. BigBarker.com/Ricky. BigBarker.com/Ricky. That's where you go. When you go there, not only are you going to get the best dog bed you could ever get, but you're going to get 2 Process Pup patches. You're going to get stickers. You're going to iron the patches on the bed. You're going to send us a picture. Like, who's the most recent one I got? I'll post it today. But we always get I love pictures of dogs on the Big Barker with the Process Pup patch there. They become a Process Pup. But why do you need a Big Barker? Well, because it's going to keep your dog healthier and happier. That's the truth. From day one, engineered to keep your dog healthier, because most dog beds are not real beds. They're just not. They look comfy, right? They look like, oh man, I'd love to lay in that. But if you think about it, if you had to sleep on something that had no support, that was just big and cushy, like almost like a pillow, it might feel nice falling asleep, but you'd wake up, your back would hurt. And the older you got, the worse it would get. Same with dogs. That's why you need a Big Barker, because Big Barker engineered by experts to keep your dog's joints flexing the way that they need to flex, moving the way that they need to move, because dogs develop arthritis just like people. Bigger dogs especially. Over 50 pounds, up to 80% of them develop arthritis as they age. But they start sleeping on a Big Barker, they stay, springy longer. So you want to start as early as you can. But even if it is an older dog that is already having trouble, the relief that your dog is going to feel by sleeping on a Big Barker. BigBarker.com/Ricky. My dogs sleep on Big Barkers. Rebel, Scotchy both sleep on Big Barkers. Scotchy does climb into the bed around 3 a.m. every day. I'm going to be honest, in the people bed. But she falls asleep on the big barker. There's a 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. A 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, if your dog doesn't like it, they'll pay for the shipping and give you a full refund. And it's handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog pets.
Brr.
All right.
Yeah, just to close the book on that.
Yeah.
It's the Embiid career discussion.
Yeah.
You kind of keep waiting for him to, and maybe the time has run out, obviously, but you kind of just keep waiting for him to be the guy that he is capable of being, both on and off the court. And the Maxey thing from earlier this season, where there was a players only meeting and Maxey kind of called out Joel, and then that meeting got out, and then Joel was like, kind of the fallout from that was that Joel was pissed that that like all that stuff came out, rather than the actual content of what seemed to be the meeting, which was Joel's like late to stuff and not really like being the leader that he needs to be. Mm-hmm. And I think the fallout of that meeting of Joel being pissed that that stuff came out is also indicative of him not being really the leader that he needs to be. You know what I mean? Like that is exactly maybe the exact kind of example. And I don't think Marcus Morris, or if they signed Joe Ingles or somebody, would be able to tell Joel like what's what. But Maxey as a fellow like lead star type player that has built up the years and the like relationship equity with Joel, they can call him out for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And should. However, maybe, you can quibble with how he did it, but that's the kind of thing that you want that kind of player to see, because Maxey is a like grind every day, play his ass off kind of player, and Joel is to some extent, but does not do everything that he could do, like you said. And you sort of just look around and you go like, eventually he's going to regret that.
Oh yeah.
If he doesn't already, like eventually he's going to regret like not doing everything he could have done, not being the kind of on and off the court leader he could have been. Yeah. When he was younger, we would both make excuses for him for sure, and being like, well, whatever, like that kind of stuff. Like, does that matter? Does that matter? But then at a certain point, the years go by, the failures stack up, and you have to sort of confront the idea that like there are very few players that can be the best player on a championship team. And there are even fewer of those players that can be like a real face of your organization leader that help the culture, that allow you to be, have sustained success. And I think there's a lot of guys in the league you can point to that are those guys. And I think Joel just hasn't been. He's obviously capable of being the best player in a championship team, but thus far he has not been capable of being the best like leader, number one on the call sheet type of person on a championship team, because you just hear too much about how much he's dropped the ball on that.
And not even just like vocal leader, but even like living up to his ability, his physical ability, by doing everything that he can.
Exactly.
And I think you're right about him regretting it, and probably regretting it now. And I think that is part of his like very visible misery this year, has been reckoning with the reality of, like I might not be, like I may have wasted the chance here. Like the chance might be over. And just for everyone who has listened, like, and heard us repeatedly say there's not a magic surgery that Joel can have. We had that big hubbub 3 weeks ago that all the doctors were going to get together and come up with a plan. And like, here we are, right? It's 3 weeks later. We haven't heard anything about anything. And if there was going to be some big surgery, I think that had a 8 to 12 month recovery, my guess is we would have heard about it and they would have done it already.
Well, certainly you'd want to do it as quickly as possible.
Right. Yeah. So, but we tend not to. I think both of us. You made this point at one point. Both of us are very. I think in the depths of our soul are very realistic about the possibility of Joel Embiid ever being the best player on a championship team again. Like very, very aware, but without dwelling on the reality that it is unlikely. More just so hope, fingers crossed, whatever, with the intellectual knowledge of knowing that the best days are likely behind him at this point.
Yeah, I would love one more year. Like if you could
Just
give me one
one
more year where
yeah.
he's like the kind of guy he used to be, and there's a playoff chance in there where where the younger guys are carrying it, but he's still like a force in the way he's a force. I would really. This is me bargaining with a higher power, and it hasn't been successful yet, but I think it might help now. To your point, whether he regrets it. There's a chance he doesn't.
Oh yeah.
There's a chance he doesn't like take ownership of it.
Yes.
There's a chance he doesn't look at himself and go like, okay, what could I have done better? What could I have? Not even like he'll say on the court he has a great game and he's like, oh, I didn't do this or that. Like he holds himself to a high standard on the court, I think. But knowing Joel, and at a certain point, someone will do the interview or write the article about like how he's feeling. If he's not looking at himself being like there were habits I wish I had taken more seriously or leadership stuff or like, oh, I wasted this. I think there is a chance that he's like, I gave everything I could to this organization, and he starts pointing the finger at other guys and other stuff, and that would suck. He's not wrong in some stuff, but he also like there's the part. It's both true. Like he could have done more.
Yes.
He should have done more, and also like you could point the finger. Let us point the finger at some other guys.
Yes, you point the finger at yourself. It'll make it easier for us to point the finger at everybody else.
Yeah.
And there's also a chance that he realizes it in 12 years.
Yeah.
When it's far behind him. We got this. So this guy has a question, and then I have a question for you. I'll sort of off of this question. Rice at RickySanchez@gmail.com. This came from Nick. We've landed a capable shooting guard with production comparable to top lottery prospects, aside from maybe Flag. While keeping Grimes and getting a lottery pick would be ideal, missing out isn't a disaster. If things go right, we start next season with Grimes and McCain added to the lineup, something we didn't have 24-25. The tanking wasn't wasted. It gave Bona, Edwards, Butler valuable minutes, and they should come back stronger, even if we can't sign Yabu. Hitting on McCain, adding Grimes for an injured underperformer, and developing young talent leaves us in a solid spot. Overall, I'm not too down, So here is, overall, I'm not too down about missing the pick or other good breaks. Curious to hear your thoughts. P.S. You die a Mike guy or live long enough to become a Spike guy is becoming the truest parable I've ever heard. Question being, you have one choice. You can either keep the pick or keep Grimes. What would you do?
In that scenario, I'd probably keep the pick.
Okay, no matter where the pick is. Just
Well,
saying, I'm
top six.
Yeah, I'm guaranteeing you a top 6 pick or keep Grimes. What would you rather do?
I'd probably. I think the odds of Quentin Grimes being better than whoever they get like at 6 are like probably pretty high.
Yeah.
But I think as far as turning the page, there being a possibility of McCain and this guy developing into like the next foundation, I think you could probably add Maxi's vet, but I wouldn't like certainly add Maxi to that. I think you got to take the opportunity to get a top 6 pick where you can in a pretty good draft, and the chance that it's Cooper Flag or Dylan Harper would obviously be worthwhile to take. So yeah, I mean it's if you told me that Joel and Paul George were healthy next year and were doing their thing, then I might say Grimes. But yeah, me already starting to bargain. But if they don't get the pick, then next year at least they own their pick. And so if it's another horrible year next year,
oh my God! But there's no way it'll be as bad next. Well, oh my God, I can't.
Yeah,
believe I actually said
CJ, clip that, save it.
No, I didn't finish it. It's a bad clip. Never said it.
Then at least you could go like, all right, so next year control of our own destiny, whatever. But I guess my desperate optimism lends itself to go, okay, this is just a really horrible year. It's just a really horrible year. while we're in this horrible time, let's get in there. Let's sneak a top 6 pick out of this. And then next year we can be good. And when we lose the pick and it's like 24th overall, then that's fine. Then we can do that. And that's okay. I'm just trying to like steal something from this misery. And I think there's some value to just being like, okay, we didn't get it. I mean, the disappointment that would happen if they didn't get it at the lottery party would suck bad.
It would be terrible.
Oh man, that's the highest. We thought the high stakes were like 2016 or whatever, when it was like hopefully they get number one. It's like no, these stakes are like you are standing off a ledge and someone is just waiting to a little nudge just gets you out of there.
Well, and we're gonna do. I think we only did this once with you. Like we're gonna do a live pod after the lottery, and like if we don't get the pick, it is gonna be a tough hang.
We gotta rig it, dude. They gotta rig it for us.
Well,
come on.
Here's my other question to you. Another related question. Let's say we get the second pick and Brooklyn gets the first pick, and Brooklyn calls you and they tell you they'll give you the first pick for the second pick in Maxey. What would you do?
Yeah, you probably do it. Sadly,
right?
You probably do it because then you get to be.
You have a future no matter what happens with. You have McCain and Flagg as your centerpieces of a future.
We become like the Duke Sixers, which would be
disgusting. Elton Brand
hard for some people. Yeah, Elton.
Billy King fucking smiling their fucking Duke faces off.
But yeah, Allah. But yeah, I think you probably do it. I think Cooper Flagg's just really, really, really good. And if you're saying like, well, let's just lose the idea that this iteration of the team can succeed, then yeah, I think you take a generational player.
2 more emails, then we're done. Writes RickySanchez@gmail.com. This from James, Spike, Mike, and Scotchy. This is something that I've been meaning to bring to your attention for a while now. This train wreck of a season we find ourselves in is your fault. I have 2 pieces of evidence to back this up. 1, you started.
I don't need the evidence. Okay. He's right. That's fine.
You started a draft-only podcast this season. In a season where we weren't even supposed to have our first-round pick, you tempted fate with a podcast focusing purely on the draft. To be clear, I don't blame the Danny or Ahmed in any way, and have actually enjoyed their podcast while it was going, but Spike and Mike bringing this into the world clearly was a step too far. By the way, they stopped doing it, and then now we have the fucking draft to worry about. Mike also declared after signing Paul George that this core we would run with for the next 3 to 4 years. He has done this with every major acquisition in recent history. I'm not sure you guys are history buffs or not, but every version of this team has exploded spectacularly in 1 to 2 seasons of coming together. At this point, if we ever acquire a promising core again, I desperately need Mike to hold off on announcing it the core of the next few years.
I'll never speak again. I think I'm already doing it with Quentin Grimes. I think I already did that. I think I've already fallen into the mistake again.
Yeah. And finally, this one from Dan. Hey, Spike, Mike, and CJ. Very excited to see that there's a date for the lottery party. Well, it's the date of the lottery. We don't really have a choice. I got into the Ricky post-lottery party days and cannot wait for this one. I have an idea that I really hope you guys read that might make this the most memorable lottery party yet. One reason as to why the Sixers season has been so shitty that has not been addressed at all. Michael Rubin canceled the white party. Every year that Michael Rubin hosted his white party, the Sixers were at least somewhat competitive. This year our guys did not get to attend, did not get their social juices flowing, and it showed on the court as they played like they were a bunch of strangers with no connection. An added bonus, the top prospect in this highly touted draft class is a generational white guy.
I can't do this.
Thus, I am proposing that the lottery party be the Ricky Lottery White Party. Considering everything that a white party has unfortunately come to represent, we can bring a lot of positivity back to the concept. We won't make it weird.
No. That's it. That's an admission statement.
Yeah, we won't make it weird.
We can bring a lot of positivity back to the concept. We won't make it weird is like that would be in like a Netflix documentary about like some business that went bad.
I would say that the rule at this lottery party should be nobody is allowed to wear white. No, there will be no white. We should have the details. Like the tickets will be the next 2 weeks. Details hopefully this week. We're trying to lock down one last element for May 12th. So, all right. Well, I am going to go walk a little bit, get my steps in for my my dildo hip, and then head over to watch the tournament. Which I want to let everyone fly the process know. I don't like watching the tournament, but I do like hanging out with everybody. So we're going to head over to that. Mike is going to spend yet another day sitting in front of TVs. Do you watch this at home or do you watch this at a sports bar?
Today is at a sports bar. Yesterday was
Okay.
home.
Okay. We will talk to you next time. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, lick face.